Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. Tonight, I have 3 stories for you, 3 places that seemed completely normal at first until they weren't. Places that don't just trap you, they change you. We're going to start with a massive public aquarium, the kind of place you visit on a weekend with your friends, surrounded by families and bright lights. But what happens when the doors lock behind you after closing time and you realize you're not the only ones left inside? Then we move to a 24-hour gym called Iron Eternal. It offers good pay for a simple night shift. All you have to do is follow the rules. The problem is, some of those rules were never meant to be followed by normal people. And once you break them, the building starts improving you, whether you want it or not. Our final story takes us somewhere much colder. A man who survived 3 months trapped in a frozen cave. He made it out alive. But something came back with him. Something that never stopped being hungry. These aren't just stories about being trapped. They're stories about what happens when a place or something inside it decides it wants to keep you. So if you're ready, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. The first thing you notice when a massive aquarium closes isn't the dark, it's the hum. Millions of gallons of water cycling and vibrating through the floorboards, filling the silence. We had gotten caught in traffic, rushing in with less than an hour until closing. We hurried past the jellyfish, their translucent bodies undulating under harsh UV lights, past the enormous blacktip reef sharks, their tails slicing through the water. We were just trying to see the best exhibits. But somewhere in the blue glow, we lost track of time when we finally made it back to the entrance. The doors were locked. "Hello?" Derek called out. "Can someone open the door? Please?" Nothing. The concession stand was dark. The ticketing booth was empty. I cupped my hands against the glass doors, peering out into the falling dusk. The parking lot was desolate, and I mean completely empty. Not a single car under the streetlights. "Maybe they all left," I muttered, without noticing we were still here. No way. But as we walked back down the main hallway, past a tank of lionfish hovering in the artificial twilight, that uneasy feeling started to set in. The ambient music they usually piped through the speakers had been cut. The overhead lights were dimmed to a heavy, shadowy blue. We did a full circuit. Past the shuttered manta ray touch pool. Past the glowing jellyfish. Nobody. "Should we call the police?" I asked, my voice instinctively dropping to a whisper. Derek nodded, his face illuminated by the pale light of his phone screen. "I guess so. I still can't believe they didn't do a sweep of the place." I pulled out my phone, 1 bar. I dialed 911. A single hollow ring sounded in my ear, and then the call dropped. "No reception," I said. Derek frowned at his screen. "Me neither." I tried to rationalize it. "There's got to be a janitor, security, someone." I jogged further back into the exhibits. The jellyfish were still pulsing under the black light, totally oblivious. Can they even hear? I wondered, as I shouted at the top of my lungs into the empty corridor. They didn't react. The sharks just kept circling their massive enclosure, watching us with dead, bulging eyes. Is anyone here? Nothing. Just the deep mechanical thrum of the water filters. At exactly 7:30 p.m., the remaining overhead lights clicked off. We were plunged into near total darkness, save for the eerie glow bleeding out from the tanks. I slid down the wall against a fake rocky outcropping, burying my face in my hands. "We're trapped," I breathed. Derek sat next to me. He's always been the calm one, the kind of guy who shoves down his own panic to keep you grounded. "Someone will come back," he said smoothly. "They have cameras. They probably see us right now. Worst case scenario, they open at 8 a.m. It's just one night. I can't stay here all night. I'm starving. So there's food." He pulled me to my feet, guiding me toward the cafe area. Most of it was locked behind metal grates, but a small fridge of drinks and a standalone freezer of Dippin' Dots had been left unsecured. We sat in the dim seating area, forcing down the ice cream, trying to make a joke out of it. "Sleeping with the fishes," Derek smirked. I rolled my eyes. Our voices echoed into the cavernous room, bouncing off the glass of the shark tank behind us. Then, Derek's expression changed. The smirk vanished. His jaw went slack. He stared down at his hands, shaking his head slightly. "What?" I asked. "Nothing. He said it too fast." "Derek." "What?" His eyes flicked up. They locked onto a spot in the water, right over my shoulder. His pupils dilated. I whipped around deep inside the massive shark enclosure. A dark shape darted behind a column of fake coral. My stomach bottomed out. Was that a person? "Looked like it," Derek whispered. "A diver doing late night maintenance?" I shot up from my chair and pressed my hands against the thick acrylic. Through the murky water, I saw it. A figure, completely clad in dark scuba gear, hovering perfectly still behind the coral structure. I slapped the glass. "Hey, we're locked in," I shouted. "Can you let us out?" A thin trail of bubbles drifted up to the surface. The diver didn't move. Derek came up beside me, his eyes narrowed. "Why isn't he coming out?" I asked. "Shouldn't he be cleaning the glass or feeding them?" "I don't know." Dread, cold and heavy, settled in my chest. "He's hiding." Why would a maintenance worker hide from two people trapped in the building? The fake coral had hollow sections. Even though I couldn't see his face, I knew with absolute certainty that he was watching us. I backed away from the glass. "I don't like this." I checked my phone again. 0 bars. "Come on." I grabbed Derek's jacket, pulling him away from the tank. We hurried into the next corridor, designed to look like an underwater tunnel. The shadows here were thick, the only light coming from the aquarium surrounding us. I scanned the darkness frantically for a red exit sign. Nothing. We moved deeper into the building, our footsteps echoing too loudly on the tile. Schlop, I froze. "What was that?" I mouthed. It came from the hallway up ahead. It sounded like something heavy and wet. Hitting the floor, Derek grabbed my shoulders and shoved me into a dark alcove beside the sea turtle exhibit. My back pressed flat against the curved glass. Schlop. Slap. It was the diver. He was out of the tank. I held my breath until my lungs burned. "Don't come down this way." The silence stretched out, agonizing and thick. Derek slowly leaned out, peering around the edge of the rockwork. He instantly snapped back into the alcove. His eyes were wide with a terror I had never seen in him before. He pressed a trembling finger to his lips. "He's there," Derek mouthed, pointing around the corner. I couldn't help it. I leaned forward just an inch. The man in the scuba gear was standing at the end of the hall. His back was to us. Gallons of water were cascading off his dark suit, pooling rapidly on the linoleum floor. Before I could process anything else, Derek yanked me back into the shadows. Minutes bled away, no footsteps. He wasn't walking. He was just standing there, waiting. He knows we're here. We stood paralyzed against the glass of the turtle tank. And then I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. It wasn't coming from the hallway. I slowly turned my head around. He was right there on the inside of the turtle tank, silhouetted by the vivid blue water. A pale, slender finger was tapping rhythmically on the glass inches from my neck. I looked at his face and my mind shattered. The scuba mask wasn't being worn. It was fused into him. Pale, waterlogged flesh peeled back from his cheekbones, stretching and merging over the edges of the foggy glass to protect two impossibly large, bulging eyes. His body was twisted, wrong, tapering down into something entirely inhuman. I was completely paralyzed. Derek grabbed my arm and violently yanked me forward. We ran. A massive splash echoed from the turtle tank. Seconds later, that wet, heavy slapping sounded on the floor behind us. Slap, slap, slap. It was incredibly fast. "Don't look back," Derek screamed. We sprinted blindly past the neon displays, past the sharks, the exhibits blurring into streaks of blue light. We burst into the main lobby. Derek grabbed a heavy metal chair from the cafe and hurled it at the front entrance. The glass shattered, raining down into the night air. Slap, slap, slap. "Run," I cried out. But I didn't make it. Something cold and unnaturally strong clamped around my ankles. The floor vanished from beneath me as I hit the ground hard. I was being dragged backward, fast. Back toward the darkness of the exhibits, the overpowering stench of rotting fish and stagnant seawater filled my nose. He's taking me back to the water. I'm food. I kicked. I screamed. Derek lunged back inside, grabbing me by the armpits, bracing his boots against the doorframe. With a sickening tearing sound, I broke free. Derek hauled me through the shattered doors and out into the cold night air. We scrambled across the asphalt, locking ourselves in the car, gasping for air. "Let's get out of here." Derek choked out, slamming the car into gear. No one believed us. Not the police. Not our friends. Everyone wrote it off as two scared kids whose imaginations got the better of them in the dark. They said it was just a night shift feeder doing his job. Over time, I almost convinced myself they were right, that my mind had invented the horror in the dim light of that hallway, except for two things: the deep, jagged scratches permanently scarred into my ankles where that thing grabbed me, and the fact that between my toes, the skin has begun to web. She got out of that aquarium, physically, at least. But ever since that night, she's felt it, that strange tightness between her toes when she steps out of the shower. The way her skin has started to feel different, like something is slowly rewriting her from the inside out. Some places don't need to chase you. They just need to leave something behind. Our next story is about another place that does exactly that. A gym that promises to make you stronger, fitter, better. But the longer you stays, the less of the original you remains. If you've ever been truly desperate, you know how it hollows you out. Between the suffocating stack of bills and my mother's mounting medical debt, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion I was feeling made a minimum wage graveyard shift sound like a luxury vacation. So when I saw the ad for a night manager at a 24-hour gym called Iron Eternal, offering $28 an hour just to sit in the dark, I didn't ask questions. I just needed the money. The gym is housed in this massive, repurposed meatpacking warehouse on the outskirts of town. There's zero natural light in the back half of the building. And no matter how high they crank the ozone purifiers, the air is always taste faintly of copper and sweat. Marcus interviewed me in the middle of the afternoon. He was uncomfortably tall. His skin was stretched paper thin, and these thick, dark veins crawled up his neck like living cables. When he shook my hand, his grip was crushing, almost testing my bone density. He smiled, showing what looked like far too many teeth for a human mouth, and told me, "The building rewards dedication. Just follow the protocols." He handed me a master key card and left me alone in the staff room. That's when I saw the sheet. It was bolted directly into the wall, not screwed into drywall, but drilled deep into something behind the plaster that felt entirely too solid. The header read, "Iron Eternal, Night Shift Preculse, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Break them and become part of the gains." The paper was thick, yellowed with age. Different handwriting styles overlapped, layered over years of night managers. I took a picture of it my very first night. This is exactly what it said. Front doors remain unlocked at all times. If they seal shut on their own, do not force them open. A new member is learning the way in. All members after midnight must scan their QR and state their full legal name aloud. Record both. If the voice doesn't match the file, or if they lack a face, send them to the deadlift platform. Do not follow them. Mirrors stay uncovered. If one fogs up or shows motion with no one in front of it, wipe it with the red cloth only. Do not stare into it for longer than 3 seconds. Any longer, and it stares back. Temperature never drops below 68 degrees. They sweat more when it's warm. The smell helps them find you. If you hear perfect, silent reps coming from the deadlift platform after 1 a.m., leave one fresh towel and a full shaker bottle on the bench. Do not watch. Do not count their reps. They hate being observed while feeding. 7 occasionally runs backward. Match its speed to the shadow on the belt. Never let the shadow lap the machine. It gets incredibly frustrated. Members may request a spot. Always give it. Place your hands exactly where they instruct. Do not flinch when their skin shifts. They need the transfer. The sauna after 2:30 a.m. is for staff only. If occupied, enter and sit directly across from them. Maintain eye contact. Accept whatever sip they offer from their bottle. Swallow it. It's part of the pump at exactly 3:33 a.m. Dim the lights to 40% and start the Eternal Pump playlist. Do not skip any songs. Track 7 will tell you exactly what you need to improve tonight. Obey silently if you find warm, slightly soft weights left on the floor. Rack them immediately. They are still digesting. Weighing them counts as an interruption. Never enter the basement pump room unless every exterior door is locked and the emergency alarm is screaming. If the basement door is standing wide open when your shift begins, it has been waiting for you. You must complete 1 full workout per shift and log your numbers. The building tracks personal records. Stagnation is corrected through physical redistribution. If you see yourself on the security cameras in a room you are not currently in, wave and smile. It gets lonely inside the walls. The previous night managers never left. They are helpful. Listen when they whisper through the air vents. They know exactly which of your muscles to target. At first, I laughed it off. I figured it was just some elaborate bro culture hazing ritual. For the first week, things were fine, quiet, mostly just insomniac regulars. But then the minor violations started. Night 5, 1:20 a.m. I heard the rhythmic, dead silent pulling from the deadlift platform. I followed Rule 5, left the towel, left the shaker. The next morning, the shaker was bone dry, and the towel, it had perfect dental imprints crushed into the fabric, the shape of a human mouth, but far too wide. Night 8. Treadmill 7 fired up in reverse. I looked over and saw a broad, heavy shadow sprinting on the belt. It was my height, my general build, but substantially thicker. Meteor. I hurried over and matched the speed on the console. The shadow turned its head as it ran and grinned at me. It had my face. My trap muscles burned for hours afterward, exactly as if I'd been shrugging heavy iron. I told myself it was sleep deprivation, hallucinations born from stress and the flickering fluorescent lights. I just needed the paycheck. But last night, I broke the big ones. Rules 7, 8, 11, 12, and 14. Actually, broke isn't the right word. I embraced them. It started at 1:45 a.m. Derek, a guy in his mid-40s with traps like mountain peaks, who came in almost every night, asked me for a spot on the bench press. When I stood over him, his skin was ice cold. It felt like it was rippling, like beetles writhing under a sheet of latex. I placed my hands exactly where he told me. Halfway through his set, Derek's eyes rolled back, pitching entirely black. Suddenly, I felt something hot and wet press into my palms and begin crawling up beneath the skin of my forearms. When he racked the bar, he looked dead at me and thanked me by my full legal name. I had never introduced myself to him, but as I walked away, I felt incredible, stronger. My arms tingled with this sudden, aggressive vascularity. At 2:22 a.m., the light above the sauna glowed a deep, bruised red. Rule 8, I was already sweating, my heart hammering in my chest from the spot. I pushed the glass door open. 2 figures were waiting on the Cedars benches, Marcus and me. My duplicate wore the exact same uniform, had the same exhausted bags under his eyes, but the veins tracing his arms were pulsing black beneath translucent skin. The real Marcus, or whatever was wearing his skin, offered me a water bottle. It smelled sharply of rusted iron and warm honey. I didn't hesitate. I drank deeply. The liquid burned a path down my throat, and the moment it hit my stomach, I felt something uncooked inside me, stretching, waking up. It was starving. I walked out of that sauna with a pump I had absolutely not earned. I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. I looked sharper, thicker, hungrier. That's when I saw the basement door. Standing wide open, Rule 11 was shattered. The concrete stairs descended into a damp, heavy darkness that smelled like a slaughterhouse at the end of a long shift. The pipes above me groaned under immense pressure. At the bottom was a circular chamber. Full-length mirrors lined the walls, arranged like a panopticon, all facing the center. In the middle of the room sat a loaded Olympic barbell, but the plates weren't metal. They looked like tightly compressed slabs of raw meat and white bone. The bar itself was gently throbbing, perfectly synced with my own heartbeat. I looked at the mirrors. They weren't reflecting the room. They were reflecting versions of me. In one glass, I was monstrously muscled. Half of my face melted into a permanent, agonizing rictus of effort, endlessly repping an invisible weight. In another, my skin was stretched drum tight over far too many joints, with extra limbs folded awkwardly beneath my rib cage. The very last mirror was entirely empty. It just showed the basement room, waiting for its new occupant. Suddenly a voice drifted down from the air vents. My own voice. Calm, measured, and encouraging. You're late for your workout, bro. Let's fix those weak points. Upstairs, every single machine in the building turned on at once. The treadmills shrieked. The heavy bags swung. The Eternal Pump playlist began playing over the PA system. But track 7 wasn't music. It was my mother's voice, distorted, sobbing, listing out every single one of my deepest insecurities and detailing exactly which muscle groups needed redistribution to make me a real man. I panicked. I bolted up the stairs. But the front doors were completely sealed. Rule 1. I retreated to the staff room, locking the door behind me. I glanced at the computer monitor. My logged workout from the start of my shift had updated itself. Every single lift had been increased by 20%, and my body felt it. Veins stood up on my biceps like ropes. My jawline visibly widened, shifting with a sickening pop. I caught myself unconsciously flexing in the reflection of the monitor. Perfect form, no weights required. Then the whispers started. The previous night managers, their voices bled through the drywall, telling me which grip to use, how to brace my core, how unbelievably good it would feel to finally truly grow. I listened to them. I walked out to the deadlift platform, grabbed an invisible barbell, and pulled. And as I pulled, something deep inside my stomach pulled with me. I am still inside the building. My shift technically ended hours ago. The day manager arrived, took one look at me, and smiled with far too many teeth. Good set, she said. She's changing into my spare uniform right now. I just watched her reflection in the mirror. There are 2 of her in there. Here is the reason my fingers are typing this out instead of dialing 911. I checked the rule sheet under the emergency lights. New lines have appeared, written in my own handwriting. The ink is still fresh and glistening wet. Rules 7 now has an ending. They need the transfer to finish moving in. Rule 12 has been updated. Stagnation will be corrected. You will thank it. Rule 14 has an addendum. The previous night managers never left. You won't either. Welcome to the eternal. And at the very bottom, bleeding into the yellow paper, is a brand new Rule 15. If you are reading this and still feel mostly like yourself, it is already too late. The building is improving you. Go lift. It hurts significantly less when you stop resisting. My stomach is currently moving in time with the deadlift platform. I look better than I ever have in my entire life. I am stronger. I am more permanent. The thing in the mirrors is doing my job now. It's out on the floor, helping members with their form. They're all improving so incredibly fast. Derek just waved at the security camera, using my hand. I'm going back to the platform now. The Eternal is hungry, and I think I finally understand progressive overload. If you work at a gym where the barbells feel warm to the touch, and the mirrors watch you back, quit. Burn the building to the ground if you have to. But you won't. You'll come back tomorrow night. We all do. The gains are eternal. Wub88 7:41 a.m. The day manager and I greeted the first morning members together. They complimented our symmetry. My reflection just high-fived me, even though my arms were at my sides. Wetbait 9:15 a.m. I called my mom. The voice that answered on her end was mine, deeper, richer, telling her I'd finally made it. She cried happy tears. I don't remember dialing the phone. Watch date 10:50 a.m. I can't see myself in the mirrors anymore unless I am actively lifting. The version of me that appears in the glass is so much happier, so much bigger. It mouths the words, "Thank you" to me between reps. I'm going back into the sauna. It's incredibly crowded in there now. They just keep passing the bottle around. This is my final update. The building thanks you for reading. If you hear perfect silent reps tonight, please leave a towel, or better yet, come inside. We'll spot you. He stopped fighting it in the end. Most of them do. Once the building gets inside you, once it starts moving your muscles for you, speaking with your voice, smiling at you from the other side of the mirror, it becomes very hard to remember why you ever wanted to leave. But there are worse things that wants to improve you. There are places that don't care about making you stronger. They only care about keeping you alive long enough to feed. Our last story tonight comes from a frozen cave in the middle of nowhere. A man survived there for 3 months. He did what he had to do to stay alive. The terrifying part is he's still doing it. I was rescued after spending 3 months in a frozen cave. I should have stayed down there. Carl was already dead. He had passed in the night, his body finally giving up against the cold and the hunger. I couldn't even bring myself to blame him. I was right behind him. The cold had permeated every single molecule of my being. The very concept of warmth was gone from my mind. Forming a coherent thought was as difficult as moving my frostbitten, purple fingers. The only things left inside me was the hunger. Staring at Carl's corpse, he looked less and less like my best friend, and more like just another object on this earth. I lay face down on the freezing stone, my head tilted toward what was left of him. His pale gray skin was already flaking with ice crystals. His tongue hung from his mouth, swollen and purple, and God help me, I licked my lips. My stomach wasn't just empty. It was a physical void, screaming, tearing at my insides for anything. "Carl," I rasped. My throat ignited into hellfire just from the effort. I waited. My ears strained against the howling wind outside for a sound. Any proof of life. I closed my eyes, trying to shut out the starving animal waking up inside me. "Ted, you still with me? Buddy?" My eyes shot open. I stared at the corpse on the ground. Carl's eyes were glazed over, clouded with death. His tongue still jutted from his mouth. He hadn't moved. "Teddy, you did it. You lasted longer than me, old friend." It was Carl's voice, exactly as it sounded before the blizzard hit, complete with that casual, nasally SoCal's accent. But when had I last heard that voice? Days ago? Weeks, Carl? I croaked, the strain nearly blinding me. "That's right, Ted. Your good buddy Carl, in the flesh." I blinked. My mind fracturing, his lips weren't moving. "You won, Teddy. You remember our deal? Winner gets to eat the other person. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Right, dude?" I didn't remember a deal. I couldn't remember much of anything since we crawled into this tomb. My starving brain had resorted to eating its own memories just to keep the lights on. I tried to respond, but only managed a guttural, pathetic moan. "That's the spirit. Looks like the Tedster is still kicking. Look, I don't want you to die too, buddy. No reason for both of us to go, right? He had a point. Carl was always the smart one. Why should we both die in the dark? Now you're cooking, Teddy. Don't let me go to waste. I wouldn't do that to you. Without my permission, my fingers curled into claws against the stone. The sickening sound of my frozen jacket scraping against the ice echoed in the dark as I dragged my dead weight toward him. That's it, Teddy. You're nearly there. The closer I got, the more the smell of death filled my nose. But it wasn't repulsive, it was intoxicating. Every inch I dragged myself gave me a surge of unnatural energy. My fingers hooked into the collar of his jacket. With one final violent heave, I pulled myself on top of him, my cheek pressing against the icy flesh of his face. Way to go, Tedster. Hard part's over. Claim your prize. My frozen jaw popped and cracked as I forced it open. I lowered my face until my teeth rested against the pale, emaciated muscle of his jaw. Nice, Teddy. Just a little bite. My jaw clamped down like a hydraulic press. The frozen flesh gave way, tearing with a sickening resistance, like biting into heavy, frozen ice cream. My eyes rolled back into my head. The sheer, overwhelming ecstasy of eating flooded my dying brain. I chewed once, twice, and swallowed a low, guttural growl. Something that didn't sound human escaped my lips as I felt it slide down my throat. That a boy, Teddy. Don't stop now. Food's getting cold. I descended into a primal frenzy. It was a blur of tearing and swallowing in the pitch black. Over the next few days, I consumed my best friend, his face, his limbs, his organs. His heart was the sweetest thing I had ever tasted. By the time I swallowed his trachea, I had the strength to stand. Look at you go, Teddy. Looking just like Schwarzenegger now. The voice echoed off the cave walls. The last thing left was his brain. I stood over his remains, a heavy, jagged rock in my hand. Waste not, want not, Tedster. I brought the rock down. A dull, wet crunch echoed in the cave. I brought it down again and again until I threw the rock aside and tore his skull apart with my bare, bloody hands. When it was over, I wiped my chin and looked out the cave mouth. The snow had stopped. I stumbled out into the infinite, dead landscape. I walked until my legs gave out, face planting into the snow, letting the darkness take me. The first thing I noticed when I woke up was the absence of cold. Then, the rhythmic, sterile beeping of a hospital monitor. I had been missing for 3 months. Frostbite had claimed my fingers, toes, and patches of my skin. I was 70 pounds lighter and temporarily blind from the snow, but I was alive. The police interrogated me. They wanted to know how I survived. Where was Carl? I stared at them, completely mute. I couldn't remember anything but the taste of his flesh. They wouldn't understand the gift he gave me. Eventually, they let me go, and I boarded a plane back to California. My first stop was a drive-through. I sat in my car, staring at a massive, greasy burger, real food. I took a massive bite and froze. Nothing. It tasted like ash and cardboard. I swallowed, forcing it down. Maybe my taste buds were damaged. But as I took the last bite, my stomach convulsed. I threw my door open and violently vomited the entire meal onto the hot pavement. It came up as a thick, black bile. When I finally made it back to my apartment, my girlfriend, Jess, was there. She broke down, holding me like she'd never let go. Her words were like music, pulling me back to reality. I was home, but life didn't return to normal. Per doctor's orders, Jess put me on a liquid diet. The broths and shakes did nothing. No flavor, no substance. My stomach would be physically full, but the hollow, starving void inside me only grew wider. Then came the dreams. In the first, I was back in the cave, my teeth sinking into Carl's arm, but this time he was sitting up. His dead eyes stared into mine. His mouth stretched into an impossibly wide smile. His teeth were too sharp. His skin pulled too tight over his skull. "That's right, Teddy. Gotta get your strength back, buddy," he would whisper as I ripped muscle from bone. The second dream was worse. I was walking through a dead, frozen forest, completely naked. I couldn't feel the blizzard whipping against my skin. Somewhere in the trees, a voice was calling me. "Here, Tedster. I'm just over here." But the tone was wrong. The SoCal accent was gone, replaced by an ancient, dripping malice. I would call back to him, but my voice was just the hoarse, croaking rasp from the cave. One night, I woke up in a cold sweat. The starvation was unbearable. I looked at Jess sleeping next to me. Her skin was so warm, so soft. My stomach let out a violent, animalistic growl as I traced the curve of her shoulder. I forced myself out of bed and went to the dark kitchen. I made a sandwich, desperate for anything. Sitting in the glow of the open fridge, I took a bite. Nothing. I choked it down anyway, just to feel it slide down my throat. "How's the sandwich, Teddy?" I froze. The kitchen was empty. The voice had come from the dark hallway. Nausea hit me like a freight train. I bolted to the guest bathroom and violently hurled black, greasy sludge into the toilet. Yeah, I was never much of a turkey guy myself. Carl's voice echoed off the bathroom tiles. I sat on the cold linoleum, pulling my knees to my chest, sobbing into the dark. "Carl, where are you?" I whispered. "Where do you think, buddy? I couldn't let you just leave me in that cave, you know." I pressed my back against the wall. "No, you're dead. I ate you." A low chuckle filled the small room. My blood ran ice cold. Carl had a goofy laugh, the kind that made you smile. This wasn't a laugh. It was a predatory vibration. The next few weeks were absolute hell. Jess left for a work conference in LA, leaving me completely alone. The hunger drove me insane. I blended eggs, raw ham, cheese, even raw hamburger meat into a gray, tasteless sludge. It did nothing. I collapsed on the kitchen floor, surrounded by empty wrappers, the fridge wide open. "Whoa, eating for two, buddy," the voice taunted from the walls. "Please, make it stop," I sobbed. "Oh, I can't make it stop, Teddy. You made your choice. Now you have to live with it." The voice dropped its disguise. It was sharp, cruel, and freezing cold, but the monstrous growl of my stomach drowned out the terror. Driven entirely by primal instinct, I crawled to the trash can, knocked it over, and began devouring rotting scraps off the floor. How the mighty have fallen. I didn't care. I shoved garbage into my mouth until the nausea hit again. I dragged myself to the sink, hacking up black fluid. Gasping for air, I looked up at the bathroom mirror, and I stopped breathing. From my open mouth, a thick, bloody piece of intestines slowly retracted back down my throat. I stared, paralyzed, convincing myself I had finally lost my mind. Then I watched my shirt ripple. Something was moving underneath it. I tore the shirt off. Beneath my skin, something thick and heavy was snaking its way around my bloated, starving stomach. I couldn't let you leave me in that cave, Teddy. I looked at my face in the glass. The eyes staring back weren't mine. They were sunken, dead, and pitch black. My hair was falling out in clumps. The thing inside my stomach coiled tighter, stoking the fires of my hunger to an agonizing peak. Then I heard the front door unlock. "It's supper time, Ted." The voice wasn't in the room. It was vibrating inside my own skull. "Ted? Are you here?" Jess called out shakily, noticing the trashed kitchen. My fingers tensed on their own. They twisted and locked into claws. "Food's getting cold," the entity whispered. I wish I could say I fought it. I wish I could say I did the right thing, but I didn't. I'm sitting in the kitchen right now, typing this out. By the time you read this and find the crushed, chewed bones of the woman I love, I'll be on a plane back to the Midwest. The hunger is satisfied for now, but I can feel it shifting inside my stomach. It's waking up again. I won't let it out into the world. I'm going back to the snow, back to the cave, back to Carl, back to wherever this thing came from. I'm sorry for the mess.